civilization and the life is safer when you are with a bigger community, bigger cities. And then the Imam said, وَحَذَرْ مَنَازِلَ الْغَفْلَ وَالْجَفَاءِ. Stay away from neighborhood or places where number one, there is ghafla, means ignorant neighborhood, and also jafa, a sinful society and sinful neighborhood. وَقِلَّةُ الْأَعْوَانِ عَلَى طَاعَةِ اللَّهِ, in an area that not too many people are really obedient, not faithful. So don't live in an area where the faithful are few. وَاقْصُرْ رَأْيَكَ عَلَى مَا يَعْنِيكَ. And when you want to talk, limit your talk to meaningful talks. I mean, don't say nonsense and don't talk things that have no meaning. So a little bit more explanation about this thing. Last night we explained the first part of this letter, but now a little bit more about وَحَذَرْ مَنَازِلَ الْغَفْلَةِ. Don't live in locations of ignorance and negligence. There is another hadith from, I think this is from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. He says, "Alaykum bil Madina wa in jarat." Locate in big cities, even if it is hard. Because sometimes you go to big cities, the traffic and, some injustice. You deal with more people and situations that they are not fair. Although you may face unfairfulness, if that's a word for that, but it still is worth it to live in a bigger city, even if there's more hardship. وَعَلَيْكُمْ بِالطَّرِيقِ وَإِنْ دَارَتْ. When you want to go to a location, better to choose the highway, even if it is longer, but highway is better because it is safer, is more, it was not GPS at that time when Imam Ali was writing this, right? I mean, GPS is just something new. I remember I went to Ohio before GPS and I got lost when coming back to Detroit for 2 hours, didn't know what to do. And I was not good in map anyway, but I didn't have map either. So Imam is saying that عليكم بالطريق وإن دارت. Even if the road is going to be longer and it takes more time, but it's worth it to choose the main path, a highway. Now, talking about al-ghafla, so this hadith related to living in bigger society and more faithful society. Now, al-ghafla, when we go to ghafla, to words of Imam Ali himself, he says, al-ghaflatu adharru al-a'da, means negligence and forgetfulness is really big enemy of man. سكر الغفلة والغرور أبعد من سكر الخمور, means when people are ghafilin, they are like drunk, and this is to be drunk of negligence is even worse than being drunk of alcohol, because somebody is drunken by alcohol after a while, so it disappears. But negligence is a kind of ada and a kind of being drunk, that it is dangerous and it's not like physical. It occupies the person's brain and mind and heart and soul and everything. So even ghafla in Arabic is different from al-jahl. Ghafla even worse than jahl. Jahl means ignorance, but ghafla means negligence. Negligence is worse than ignorance. Because if somebody is ignorant, after you talk to this person, you share knowledge, through knowledge, the ignorance ends. But negligence is more dangerous, because someone who is negligent, someone is sleeping, is easy to wake her up. But if somebody is not sleeping, just close his eyes and it appears that I'm sleeping, but he is not sleeping, how you want to, and how you want him to wake, but he doesn't want to show that he's awake. So this is negligence. And it's very dangerous, because when person is in this situation that doesn't show interest to learn, then how you want to deal with this person that's not ready? Like, you cannot, argue with ISIS, for example, that, you sit down and have a dialogue with ISIS. They are not willing to learn. They have their mindset for certain thing, and they don't want to change. They think that they are true and everybody is false, and everybody is wrong and they are right, and everyone else is disbeliever, kafir. It's very hard. So you are kafir. What did I do that I'm kafir? Because you said Ya Ali, Ya Hussein, and now you want to correct this person. Well, I mean, even in the Quran, وَاذْكُرْ فِي الْكِتَابِ إِبْرَاهِيم, Allah himself says, remember Abraham. Says, Ya Ibrahim, Ya Ismail. وَاذْكُرْ فِي الْكِتَابِ Idris. Says, Ya Idris. وَاذْكُرْ فِي الْكِتَابِ إسماعيل. وَاذْكُرْ فِي الْكِتَابِ Maryam. All of these verses in the Quran. The Quran says, Ya Maryam, Ya Ismail, Ya Ibrahim, Ya Idris. Allah says, remember this. Even Allah himself says to the Prophet Muhammad, وَلَأَمْرُكَ, by your life. His God is saying, Ya Muhammad, وَلَأَمْرُكَ. So now even God himself is mushrik, God himself is disbeliever, because he said, Ya Muhammad. So how can you really deal with these people that they are ignorant, but deep ignorant, they turn to negligence? That's very dangerous. For people who just see the appearance of this world, يَعْلَمُونَ الظَّاهِرًا مِنَ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا, they don't think deep. They just focus on the surface of this world, the material, the money, everything that is appearance and demonstration of the thing. وَهُمْ عَنِ الْآخِرَةِ غَافِلُونَ. They are negligent of Dar al-Akhirah, Yawm al-Din, the continuity of this journey. They are negligent of hereafter. So they know the dunya, but they have this ignorance and negligence of Akhirah. So how can we fight this negligence? And number one is just to bring awareness. Al-Yaqza. Zaddu al-Ghaflata bil-Yaqza. Means remove negligence with awareness. Whatever possible to bring this awareness. Number two, dhikr Allah, with remembrance of God. Through prayer and dhikr Allah, dhikrun la yukhalituhu nisyan. a kind of remembrance of God that really is not mixed with forgetfulness, a kind of deep remembrance and deep understanding. Number 3, fighting negligence with al-hazm, determination. Having this vision, this muhasaba, this muraqaba. حاسبوا أنفسكم قبل أن تحاسبوا. Have accountability. Watch what you say and what you do, and calculate your situation, your actions, your intentions, your expressions, your life, your accomplishment. Calculate everything. Before Allah calculates you, you calculate yourself. So this muhasabah, being thoughtful, being a person of remembrance. There is a hadith says, من قرأ في يوم والليلة 50 آية لم يكتب من الغافلين. If you recite 50 verses from the Quran a day or a night, I mean, 50 verses is a lot. I mean, even one verse of the Quran about being thoughtful, being grateful, all these moral verses in the Quran, ayat al-tawheed, is enough. But obviously, if you recite 50 verses from the Quran, but recitation with reflection, لم يكتب من الغفلة. I remember that, years ago, almost 10 years ago, when we were going as a family, and my wife said that, that she needed to, can we ask the bus driver that stops somewhere, we need to go to the bathroom. And the driver said, yeah, of course, I know the best place. And he keeps driving and driving. It's almost 1 hour. He said, where do you want to stop? I mean, where is it? He said, because I know a place that's really nice. I don't want to just stop you anywhere. That's very special. So after an hour and a half driving, he stopped in a, so-called rest area. And he said, yeah, this is, you go and there is a restaurant. Well, we went, first of all, in the restaurant, all these flies are flying over this chicken over there, and we have that kind of, we have fries and they have flies over there. And then the bathroom, when we went to bathroom, she said, I prefer to die and go another 10 hours to Mecca, but I don't want to go to bathroom here. It's so filthy and so dirty that unbelievable. Even animals don't do it that way. These guys with all this money. So even now, but Rumi is talking about 700 years ago, that this dervish, he is going with his donkey, and now he's hungry, he's thirsty, and he's tired. Finally, somebody told him that there is a khaniqah, or a place that the Sufis are there, and a mosque and prayer hall. So he stopped by there, and he saw a guy, and like a servant of that facility. He said, yes, I'm very tired, and can I, stop by here and spend the night here? He said, yes, no problem. We have, as a matter of fact, we have a meeting here, we have some dhikr here, we have service here, you can join us. And the guy said, what about my donkey? Can I tie my donkey outside and then enjoy the gathering? He said, no problem, you can go there. So he left his donkey outside, and he went inside, and he joined, and there was one like a smart guy, and found this poor guy. He is a stranger and he doesn't know about anything, but he knew that he has a donkey. So he has some property with him, something worth it, a donkey transportation, like a Mercedes of that time in that situation. So he started, how are you, and where are you coming from, and what is your job, what are you doing? And he impressed himself And as he made this guy busy, he had somebody else to go and get this donkey and go to the market and sell it and get something, because everybody's hungry now here. We have a gathering that everybody needs a dinner and everybody. So the guy went and to the souk, to the bazaar, and sold the donkey and get some meat and tea and coffee and sugar and everything. And they brought and made a huge dinner, and everybody is happy. And in Persian, they started saying like a nasheed. They said, khar beraftu, khar beraftu, khar beraftu. Khar in Farsi means donkey. Beraft means gone. Khar beraft means a donkey is gone. Donkey is gone. And the guy, he thought that this is like part of something that they do all the time. He himself kept repeating everything, and he is saying with excitement, khar beraftu, khar beraftu, khar beraftu, donkey is gone, donkey is gone, donkey is gone. Then they ate and they enjoyed the food, and then they slept. Then after dinner, obviously the guys, they came for that ceremony, they left. So the guy by himself, he slept there, and in the morning he said, okay, now it's time to continue my trip. He went outside, said, what happened to the donkey? Donkey is not there. And nobody else is there to ask. He thought, the poor guy, he thought that maybe the servant, the khadim of this facility, that last night he said, no problem, you can leave your donkey there. Maybe he took the donkey somewhere to give donkey some water or something, and now he's coming back. So he's waiting and waiting and waiting for 2 hours, and finally the guy that the khadim of that khanigah, he came back and he said, what happened to the donkey? He said, what? He said, my donkey. He said, what donkey? He said, you remember last night that I came here and you said I can tie it over there and come in, and so what happened to it? He said, you should be joking. I said, what do you mean I'm joking? He said that you forgot that they sold your donkey, and the sur and the dinner that you ate last night was the money that was from your donkey. He said, are you serious? How can this happen? He said, are you saying that you didn't know what happened? He said, no. I said, I thought you... He said, how come you didn't tell me? If you saw that was an aman, I told you that I'm going to tie my donkey over there and come. If you knew that they are doing this to me, why you didn't come and tell me what happened? He said, well, several times I tried to come and tell you, but I found you yourself are so excited, you are saying the same thing. I thought you know it. I thought you know what was going on. And I said, since you know it, why should I even tell you? He said, well, that is exactly what happened. If I knew that you don't know it, obviously I would tell you. And the dervish said, you know, you are right. I'm just, shame on me. That was my ghafla. I was negligent about the situation. I should have known something. I just follow with foolishness. I kept repeating everything that they were repeating without knowing what I'm talking about. I said, donkey is gone, donkey is gone, donkey is gone. I didn't know it's my donkey is gone. And I was dancing that my donkey is gone. And happily saying the same thing that they are saying. I didn't know. Rumi is taking a result of this, that this is really negligent, that when in your life you just follow people and believe in things blindly, so that is the result. You don't know that you are losing. This is why in the Quran, brothers and sisters, there are so many verses like وَمَا اللَّهُ بِغَافِلٍ عَمَّا تَعْمَلُونَ. This verse is repeated in the Quran 10 times. Even one time should be enough. But 10 times in 10 different chapters, Allah said, وَمَا اللَّهُ بِغَافِلٍ عَمَّا تَعْمَلُونَ. God is not ghafil and negligent of what you are doing. So you shouldn't be negligent either. Imam Ali is saying, أَيُّهَا الْغَافِلُونَ غَيْرُ الْمَغْفُولَ عَنْهُمْ. You are negligent, but you don't remember that you are not neglected. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Just because you neglect, that doesn't mean that you are neglected. The angels, the universe, all the forces are watching you. They're watching you. So ghafla, brothers and sisters, is one of the things that Imam Ali said, وَحَذَرْ مَنَازِلَ الْغَفْلَةِ. Or Harith al-Hamdani, stay away from neighborhoods, from locations, from communities, from cities, that they are governed by ignorance and by ghafla. We will continue, inshallah, this letter. As I said, we have only 2 more nights, and hopefully I would complete this letter of Imam Ali in the next coming night. We welcome our honorable guest speaker, Brother Hassanain, بعد الصلوات على محمد وآل محمد.
Let's Al-Fatiha, please. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. الحمد لله الذي أنزل الفرقان على عبده ليكون للعالمين نذيرا. والصلاة والسلام على خير خلق ونور عرش أفضل الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيبنا وسيدنا وسندنا وشفيعنا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين. I begin in Allah's name and I seek refuge with Allah from my own ignorance, for blessing us in this existence and telling us the following in Surah Luqman. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alif Lam Mim. تلك آيات الكتاب الحكيم هدى ورحمة للمحسنين الذين يقيمون الصلاة ويؤتون الزكاة وبالآخرة هم يوقنون أولئك على هدى من ربهم وأولئك هم المفلحون. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوات الله محمد وآل محمد. As we're winding down these last 3 lectures actually tonight included, I'd really like to tie in all these conversations I've had. In the conversations, even my respected Sheikh has been discussing wonderful topics with regards to character and qualities that we need to live by. And there are 2 fundamental factors that we must not forget. That while there is the material element to our existence, there is the spiritual element. Humans are composed of 2 fundamental elements, material and spiritual. And both are very important. Neither should be ignored. The idea that I'm going to be very spiritual and ignore my material pursuits is not Islam. And to pursue the material goals and ignore the spiritual is not Islam. It's between the 2, bilqist. There's a balance in that. And of course, between these 2, you will find that while they're both important, the spiritual is more important. And here I'm going to extract it from this perspective of spiritual meaning, the ethereal, the non-tangible, the immaterial aspects of life. And if you ever see the value system of the universe, it's built actually on higher values towards the spiritual than the material. So for example, if somebody gives you a gift, it could be the most beautiful gift, but if there's no spirit in it, then it doesn't have value, even if it's an expensive gift. On the flip side, if the gift is very simple, but it's very deep in emotions and thought and spirit, then it's valuable. So notice even a piece of thread can be very valuable, depending on how you put value to it. It's all based on value more than material. Although we flip it in societies where we put value only in the material and nothing else, whereas there's a higher value, and you will notice that the value system is what drives everything. So the Quran, for example, is a book that has science in it, it has history in it, it has social issues, but particularly let's focus just on empirical arguments, right? The other night I recited, الذي خلق سبع سماوات طباقا ما ترى في خلق الرحمن من تفاوت فارجع البصر هل ترى من فطور. Here God says we created 7 layers of heavens, one on top of the other, and you can't see any cracks between them, one on top of the other. And Allah says, هل ترى من فطور. Do you see any cracks in it? Then Allah says, ثم ارجع البصر. Then return. Go look at it. This is empirical science, by the way. You find historically, during the dark ages of Christianity, the Muslims were now the actual leaders of science in the world at that time because the Christians had slowed down. They considered any kind of scientific observation tantamount to playing with God. So it led to a lot of ignorance at that time, and there was just madness when it came to silly accusations, the witch hunts and so on. It was a feudal system because it had lost its value system, and Islam that completed itself, which started with Adam, encourages the believers of God to go out and delve in science, to go out and research, to use it to our benefit. So Allah says, هَلْ تَرَى مِنْ فُطُورٍ. Do you see any cracks in the universe? Go look at it again, okay? You will come back dazzled and tired, the Quran says. قَرَّتَيْنِ يَنْقَلِبْ إِلَيْكَ الْبَصَرُ خَاسِيًا وَهُوَ حَسِيرٌ وَلَقَدْ زَيَّنَّا السَّمَاءَ الدُّنْيَا بِمَصَابِيحَ وَجَعَلْنَاهَا رُجُومًا لِلشَّيَاطِينِ. Indeed, we adorned the lower heavens with lamps, you see, and we strike the shayateen in this lower heaven. Now, رُجُومًا لِلشَّيَاطِينِ here, by the way, are the meteors. Shayateen in Arabic, the root word is shatana, that which harms you. And in Arabic, in the Quran especially, the word shaitan has many meanings. Ash-shaitan means the devil. But why is he called ash-shaitan? He's the one who causes harm, the harmful one. Okay? That's what shaitan means. So when you say shayateen, it's plural. Many harmful entities. There's a hadith of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He says, don't let your mustache cross the lip line. Don't let it go over your lip line, because many shayateen live there. Now you think there's a real shaitan, made of jinn, fire, sitting there, iblis. No, what the Prophet meant was there are harmful bacteria that should be avoided, and therefore do not cross the lip line. The word shaitan is used. A meteor that's attacking the earth could destroy us. A large meteor could cause, in fact, some argue that the extinction of dinosaurs was because a large meteor hit the earth, which caused the earth's atmosphere to block the sun, and it caused the freezing period, which led to the extinction of these animals. So we know that these elements that are out in space can be very destructive. And when you see what we call a shooting star, when you and I sit in the atmosphere in the summer especially, we see a shooting star. It's not a star, by the way. Stars don't shoot. Okay, just FYI. Stars don't shoot. They don't go like that. That's not a star. It's just a metaphor. It's actually a meteor entering the atmosphere, and it's getting burnt with the atmospheric layer that does not allow anything to penetrate. Look how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking to me about science, وَلَقَدْ زَيَّنَّا السَّمَاءَ الدُّنْيَا بِمَصَابِيحَ وَجَعَلْنَاهَا رُجُومًا لِلشَّيَاطِينَ. It's really an amazing exposure that the Quran talks about on many fronts, Even in other surahs, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in various ways the scientific element. So, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying to us that while this Quran is a book of science, and we do show you what we did, and we do show you how we lit the lamps at night and made it so beautiful that people actually take little glow-in-the-dark stars in their rooms just when they go to sleep, because they want to recreate the natural, beauty of the Milky Way, in their bedrooms. And Allah said, look at that, I made that. هذا خلق الله فأروني ماذا خلق الذين من دوني. This is what God created. Show us what anyone else has created. When you look at laws of probability, the sun is so much larger than the moon. Thousands of times larger. And when you look at it, subhanAllah, from the visual perspective of a human being on earth, looking towards space, the moon is so much smaller. It's actually smaller than earth, right? But yet the disk size is exactly the size of the sun, that the moon can eclipse the sun. You know how difficult it is mathematically in calculations, just in calculations, let alone pure probability, to place a spherical object in space that's orbiting and to place it precisely at a point where it is exactly the size of the sun visually, and yet the moon is spinning with the earth, never giving its back to us, and therefore it's creating a drag, and that causes the tides to come up and down. Oh, this all came by chance, by the way. It's amazing, So Allah says, هَذَا خَلْقُ اللَّهِ. These are beautiful expressions, and when you and I hear this, studying science, I would come out of class dazzled. I swear, dazzled in astronomy. I'd be taking immunology, molecular biology. I come out and I'm dazzled how this DNA does what it's supposed to do. It's so intelligent. How does it know? I would study for a whole year, one little process, and then I'd watch it in a microscope. It's happening. Like, wow, there it is. That whole years of learning is happening in seconds. Allah said, look at what I'm making. This is how I make things. You come out dazzled. That's why I always say a real scientist cannot be an atheist. A true scientist. What I mean by that is a scientist is not only an empiricist. A scientist has values. Otherwise, why are you doing science? So if I go out and measure the universe and I tell you exactly to the precise dimensions how the universe looks, functions, and everything about it, and I have no value, meaning I don't give it value of positives and negatives, then it's absurd. So if I say to you, there was an explosion that took place, that's science. Something exploded. You'd say, well, generally, there was an explosion. You and I would know, well, it's high entropy, something blew up, a lot of damage, somebody died. Generally, we see explosions are negative. But actually, explosions are not bad. You bring mountains down to create roads, we extinguish forest fires with explosions, right? So if you examine, explosions are not neither good nor bad, subject to what you use it for. So science is just a means of observation. It's a tool that has neither value of positive and negative. For example, displacement. When something moves, here's my cup, it moved from here to here. According to science, there's a theory for this, there's a principle for this, right? Ability to move. Okay, in science, it's got no value. Whether the cup is here or here, it's got no value. But what if I moved your wallet from your pocket to mine? I would argue in science, it's just displacement. I just displaced, from the teller's drawer into my pocket. I mean, is it bad? I took it home. What's the big deal? From the bank to my home. I mean, who cares? It's displacement. Notice there's a very intricate system of values within the system that really validates all sciences. So you would end up going to jail. You can people come to me and they say, brother, I'm an atheist, and we're just carbon-based computers. I said, oh really? I said, yeah, it's just all synaptic, impulses. We're just like drones. We're robots. I said, oh, I see. So it's all chemical. He says, yeah, adrenaline, hormones, all kind of stuff. Look how they're trying to belittle value. So I said, so when somebody commits murder, would you argue to the jury that it was all just a combination of chemicals that moved from point A to point B, A knife went into somebody, and based on the laws of physics, it caused an opening, which then led to the blood to spill out, which then led to the person from being vertical to horizontal. I mean, what's the big deal? Let's go home. Notice how absurd the idea is. So anybody who argues through pure mechanical substances is actually nullifying the very value of their existence. That while the Quran has 600-700 verses in science alone, the Quran does not claim itself to be a book of science for a reason. It's a book of history. It's a book of philosophy and theory, of truth. Shows us exactly what the truth is about. Why is the Quran so important? In these blessed months, you and I have to ask, that's true. Why didn't Allah, for example, and I'm opening more questions, why didn't Allah give us all the theories of science in the Quran? There are, for example, in Surah Al-Anbiya, Allah says, أَوَلَمْ يَرَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا أَنَّ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ كَانَتَا رَتْقًا فَفَتَقْنَاهُمَا وَجَعَلْنَا مِنَ الْمَاءِ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ حَيٍّ أَفَلَا يُؤْمِنُونَ. Do the disbelievers not see that the earth and sky was once one, and we opened it? Now here the root word فَفَتَقْنَاهُمَا is actually scientifically appropriate. It's good. Allah opened it. He didn't explode it. He didn't blow it up. It wasn't a bang. Big bang. Get it? It's more appropriate. We opened it. It's controlled. It's an expansion that's controlled from Planck's moment. That moment when the universe opened up. فَفَتَقْنَاهُمَا وَجَعَلْنَا مِنَ الْمَاءِ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ حَيٍّ. And we made all living things out of water. Ask any scientist today, they'll tell you water is an essential precursor and sustainer of life. Without water, you don't have any metabolic processes in the body. So subhanAllah, we send all our probes out in space today using probes that measure water, check for water. Quran says, وَجَعَلْنَا مِنَ الْمَاءِ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ حَيٍّ أَفَلَا يُؤْمِنُونَ. Do you still then not believe? Now, this is a very powerful scientific evidence that came 1400 years ago, which was discovered in this century. We might say, oh, subhanAllah, wow, look at that. Quran has the answer to science. No, it's not intentionally telling me that. Quran, by the way, whatever it says is so deeply true that if you and I tap it, it benefits us. But the Quran is not projecting that as itself. It's not. Because, and let me tell you the reason why. You might say, why didn't the Quran just give me all the essential secrets of the universe, which will then enable us, to reach high stages of existence? In fact, if you go 500 years ago, what we know in science today, right? We are so far ahead today than just a century ago. Go back 500 years, we were in the Stone Age. Although we were very advanced 500 years ago, just 500 we were very advanced, but relative to today, it's asymptotic. Our growth is just beyond our technology. Our knowledge of technology is growing so fast, humans cannot keep up with it. You know that? We as a human race cannot keep up with the speed of technology. But humans are so smart, subhanAllah, they figured out a way to control that. It's called artificial intelligence. We created intelligence artificially. And AI actually takes over that difference. So if I can't think very well, I have a computer to think for me to manage the computer. That's incredible. That's what you and I are capable of doing. But the reason Quran doesn't describe all of the scientific matter is precisely because of this. That you and I are already gifted with the ability to ascertain it. That through our struggles we can get science. Through our struggles I can go measure. Through our struggles we can understand mathematics. Through our struggle we can take all of these facets of the universe and come to conclusions that are universally acceptable among scientists. That yes, there is this system in the universe, the system of constants, the system of, for example, forces that exist in the universe. We recognize them and we all try to understand how they work, and therefore we all come to terms to utilize them effectively. Today, physicists, theoreticians are talking about multi-dimensional universe. 13, 14, 18, 20, some of the dimensions are astronomical. Dimensions. If you understand what a dimension is, you and I live in a three-dimensional world. There's an x-axis, a y-axis, and a z-axis. That's all you and I know. There's no other axis that you and I can know. There's no way. The fourth axis will be the time-space continuum. That's it. You and I have no idea how to touch another dimension. Yet, we believe in two dimensions. So there is one dimension missing. You and I cannot think that way. Our brain is three-dimensional. One-dimensional, that's even mind-boggling. 5 dimensions, 7 dimensions, unthinkable, but it exists. It's there. 8 dimensions, 10 dimensions, it exists. SubhanAllah. Allah is saying what you are tapping into is minuscule compared to the power of science Allah has created in the universe. We talk about Mi'raj of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Salawat ala Muhammad wa Muhammad. When you talk about Mi'raj, the Prophet went, Allah says, Subhanalladhi asra bi'abdihi layla min al-masjid al-haram ila al-masjid al-aqsa alladhi barakna hawlahu linuriyahu min ayatina. The Prophet traveled from, Masjid al-Haram to Masjid al-Aqsa. Here, Aqsa is not the Aqsa in Jerusalem. Aqsa also means furthest mosque. Meaning that in spirit, the Prophet went to the furthest mosques in the heavens. Aqsa alladhi barakna hawlahu linuriyahu. God honored him. How did the Prophet travel so quickly? In fact, he describes in his travel, he saw events taking place that would be impossible to know. Einstein studied this. He said the Prophet, as he was leaving, the tea kettle was pouring. And the Prophet left for Miraj. He discussed with Allah. Allah showed him all the secrets in the universe. And he comes back and the tea kettle is still pouring. Einstein said this is theoretically possible. It's called, moving at that warp speed of light, where time relatively stops because time is measured by the speed of light. Mind-boggling. Quran is talking about bringing the throne of Bilqis from distant land. Theoretically, physically it's impossible. From a theoretical perspective, it's possible, but it's got to have zero mass. But Allah says there's another dimension you haven't touched. You think you've touched one dimension. You think you've got 3 dimensions. There are many more in science. What I'm explaining to you is not a science class, Science 101 here. What I'm trying to explain is that you and I are dazzled with the capacity of science, and you and I as a human race, as advanced as we are, we haven't even scratched the surface of science. That's how powerful science is. You're talking about wormholes, being able to travel to the other side of the universe in a second. Can't do that. Relative physics is impossible. There's a limitation in the speed of light. But science says no. In quantum physics, it's possible. And there's something in that dimension you and I can do. Why am I discussing this? While the Quran talks about it, you and I are wondering, really? The throne of Bilqis could come with a flash of an eye, tarfat al-ayn? How? You're laughing. Allah says, I'm explaining something and I don't lie. غَيْرَ ذِي عِوَجٍ. Quran has no crookedness. It's telling you the truth. Don't take it for granted. The capacity is enormous. But why am I talking this way? I want you and I to get incredibly impressed with this rahmah of Allah. Don't belittle this world. Don't say, there's nothing. Even when I debated atheists, Richard Carrier says, DNA is flawed. I looked at him and said, excuse me, if it was flawed, you wouldn't be sitting here talking to me. Okay, let's get our facts straight here. It's flawed. Yeah, my mother died. Wow. Really? Like you shouldn't die? Ever? Forever? I bet you she got to be 10,000 years old, you'd be wondering how to get rid of her. Because you say, well, you got to make room for somebody else now, Where's the new generation coming? So here is one argument. Somebody says, it's flawed. We belittle. We look down. وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَشْتَرِي لَهْوَ الْحَدِيثِ لِيُضِلَّ عَنْ سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ بِغَيْرِ عِلْمٍ وَيَتَّخِذَهَا هُزُوًا أُولَٰئِكَ لَهُمْ عَذَابٌ مُهِينٌ. Among mankind are those who create frivolous talk in order to belittle the system of God. And they mock it. وَيَتَّخِذَهَا هُزُوًا. They mock it. They mock the system of God. God says that's the one that will be punished. The one who works hard to mock, to belittle. It's a combination of spiritual and material, sisters and brothers. Combination of spiritual and material. You notice how incredible material is? It's so agile. It's so flexible. Wood, plastic, rubber, water, solid, liquid, semi-solid, name it, all comes from the same components. Break a bond, you get a whole different structure. Make a bond, you get a whole different structure. Allah says, هذا خلق الله فأروني ماذا خلق عليه. You know, show us what anyone else has created. Today, if you look at material science, we have products today that will dazzle us. Look at the new 787 jet. It's made out of this carbon fiber material that's incredibly strong and much lighter than regular steel. And these aircrafts are made out of this, so the plane becomes lighter, and therefore they can carry more water in the plane to add more moisture when we fly, because we need moisture in the air, otherwise you get sick. Look at all the capabilities. We can do that. Tomorrow, for us to walk in space, to just do space travel, maybe warp travel, wormhole travel, is like nothing. You know, we're going to go to another planet. It's possible. Allahu Alam if we'll ever do this. What I'm trying to say is materially, it's all possible. But let's not get stuck in it because we are powerful materially. Now we don't need God. You see? I don't need to pray. I don't need to worry about the day of judgment. I don't need to worry about my deen. I don't need to be moral. I'm going to say there is nothing more important. If you and I spoke about the most intricate sciences of the world, and we are so impressed with it, it ceases to impress if it lacks value. Value, which is akhlaq, vision, submission, you know, looking at something with grace and gratitude. You know, وَإِذْ تَعَذَّنَ رَبُّكُمْ لَإِنْ شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ وَلَإِنْ كَفَرْتُمْ إِنَّ عَذَابِي لَشَدِيدٌ. We have given you a warning that if you are grateful, you will receive more. If you're ungrateful, you will be punished. That's what our children should be taught. Our children and our societies should be taught values. So why is the Quran important while it has 700 verses in the Quran? Allah says, science, I'm going to help you a little bit. And I'm going to show you what I created. And I'm going to show them as a sign for you if you doubt me. That's why Allah says, أَفَلَا يُؤْمِنُونَ أَوَلَمْ يَرَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا. Do the disbelievers not see? It's a challenge. Quran is challenging. God says, I created this universe. I made this system. It's so intricate, it'll dazzle you for life. But, Allah says, as much as you're dazzled, if you lack values, you're a hopeless person. If you and I know the universe, and we know how to manipulate it, we're the richest people in the world, the most beautiful people in the world physically, but we have bad akhlaq, we have no values, we're hopeless. Hopeless. Anybody can tell you that. I don't care if you're I've seen very rich people who are very arrogant. It just defeats the whole purpose. There's something ugly about arrogance. It's ugly. But the person can say, listen, I deserve to be arrogant. I'm so rich. I earned it. No, you can't earn that. Arrogance can never be earned. It's a lie. Because relative to the Maker, nobody can be arrogant. Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can praise Himself, and there's no arrogance when He praises. Huwa al-awwal, huwa al-akhir, huwa al-zahir. It's Jabbar and Mutakabbir. God can say that because God says, I made it. You didn't. You are made. How did you become arrogant? That value system is what's lacking in our societies today. Ramadan is meant to enhance our value system. This verse I started from is Luqman. Tilka ayatul kitab al-hakim. These are verses from a book that is wise. Kitab al-hakim. Hudan wa rahmatan lil muhsinin. It's a guidance and a mercy for good doers. Muhsinin. Who are they? الذين يقيمون الصلاة ويؤتون الزكاة وهم بالآخرة هم يوقنون. And of the day of judgment they are certain. Certain. Why certain? Day of judgment validates the value system. I am being held liable for my deeds. Luqman teaches his son the same thing. My son, don't associate with anybody. My son, keep up prayer. أقم الصلاة وأمر بالمعروف. You see, stop the evil. Be patient. وَاصْبِرْ عَلَى مَا أَصَابَكَ. Values. Now tell me, who on earth can go out and research in the universe with all the instruments accessible to us today and learn values? There is no science out there that teaches us values. You know, I can go into a spaceship and go measure objects in the universe. And I come back and I give you the object and say, here, I found this. We can do that. We don't even have to go to the other side of the universe. Scientists tell you with clarity what's happening on the other side of the universe, and we haven't even gone there yet. We talk about black holes. You can't even penetrate a black hole. We talk about it. We're so smart. That's just an observation. Where do you get the halal and the haram, the good and the evil in science? It doesn't have it. Biology, chemistry, physics, none of these systems have values. There's no value in pure empirical science. Zero. Now, Allah says, if I did not give you this Quran, if I did not guide you with prophets, and if I did not guide you with imams and with good agents who are examples on this earth that I guided, how would you know what values are? Though it's an essential part of your life. For if I reverse it, and assuming I don't know anything in the universe, I'm a very poor person. I don't even own much money. But my akhlaq is impeccable. I'm gentle, I'm kind, I'm loving, caring, sharing, giving, forgiving, and I'm patient. What would you say of that person? You say, oh, beautiful person. But they don't possess any materials. It traverses. The spiritual is superior to that. That's the value system we're talking about. So when the Quran is important to us, it's because it's the only book. إِنَّ هَذَا الْقُرْآنَ يَهْدِي لِلَّتِي هِيَ أَقْوَمُ. This Quran guides you to that which is most upright, most valuable. So value is where we lack. So I just wanted to establish, and the reason Allah gives us the Quran, He says, because in science you can get it, but in values you cannot. So I'm going to introduce 600-700 verses of science just to pique your interest, but you go out and get the theories. You go out and discover the secrets of the universe. You go out and make your lives better because I've already given it to you. It's a question of how quickly you will uncover it. And I think that trajectory of where a scientist goes out to discover the secrets of the universe is what keeps us alive. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So let's talk about what Imam Ali alayhi salam says. Values. You know, before his death, he wrote last will to Imam Hassan. I'll read a few verses of that. These are just, it's very long, by the way. He says, my son, whatever you like for yourself, like for others. And whatever you dislike to happen to you, spare others from such happenings. Do not oppress and tyrannize anybody, because you surely do not like to be oppressed and tyrannized. Look at the system of values. Be kind and sympathetic to others, as you certainly desire others to treat you kindly and sympathetically. If you find objectionable and loathsome habits in others, abstain from developing those traits of characters in yourself. If you don't like somebody's character, don't do it yourself. Somebody lies, I don't like lying, so stop doing lying. Stop lying. He says, if you are satisfied or feel happy in receiving a certain kind of behavior from, I recited this. It continues. Imam says that if you are satisfied or feel happy in receiving a certain kind of behavior from others, you may behave with others in exactly the same way. Do not speak about them in the same way that you do not like others to speak about you. Do not speak on a subject about which you know little or nothing. SubhanAllah. Very deep values. Many a times we talk about things that we don't have the ability to understand. And Imam says, don't talk about things you don't know. Avoid them. Say, I don't know. Now, when you say I don't know, it doesn't mean you always should not know. When you say I don't know, what it means is now go and get the knowledge and know it. So, Imam says, and if you all want to speak on anything or about anyone of whom you are fully aware, then avoid scandal, libel, and aspersions, as you do not like yourself to be scandalized and scorned in the same manner. Meaning, don't do tahmat, do not do ghiba, do not find faults in people, don't talk bad about them. If you know somebody, just speak the good things about the person. Do not be a scandal. In Quran, Allah says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu in ja'akum fasiqun بنبأ فتبينوا أن تصيبوا قوما بجهالة فتصبحوا على ما فعلتم نادمين واعلموا أن فيكم رسول الله لو يطيعكم في كثير من الأمر لعنتم ولكن الله حبب إليكم الإيمان. Allah says, when a troublemaker comes to you and gives you news, it's scandalous. God says, validate. Many times you'll hear somebody go, brother, this other person, he's saying really bad things about you. Scandal. This is scandal. It appears like he cares, right? Or he's backbiting you, brother. This is scandal. It sounds good. The way you nip it in the bud says, oh really? Well, hold on, let's call him. No, brother, it's a secret. I'm giving you special inside knowledge. فَتَبَيَّنُوا أَن تُصِيبُوا قَوْمًا بِجَهَالَةٍ. Perchance in your ignorance you follow it, you will cause damage. See, it's wonderful values. You won't find this conversation in empirical science. Subhanallah, you won't find it. So he says, Imam Ali says, remember son, that vanity and conceit are forms of folly, meaning foolishness. These traits will bring to you serious harm and will be a constant source of danger to you. Therefore, lead a well-balanced life. Don't be conceited nor suffer from inferiority complex. Subhanallah, what a perfect system. Don't be proud, like, oh, I'm the best. And don't say, oh, I'm horrible, I'm terrible. In between, say, you know, I have weakness, but I'm also not the best. There's always room for improvement. So it's so beautiful. And exert yourself to earn an honest living. But do not act like a treasure for somebody. Do not be miserly so that you leave what you hoard for others. Meaning, give charity. وَمِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ. The Quran is magnificent in this context, constantly talking about submission, talking about values, you know, الَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا وَجَاهَدُوا بِأَمْوَالِهِمْ وَأَنفُسِهِمْ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الصَّادِقُونَ. They struggle with their... When I focus on that, we become complete human beings. I spoke about the nafs ammara, lawama, mutma'inna. These characters, to reach mutma'inna, you and I need to look at values. We need to take the material components, be in awe of it, and say, Subhanallah, fatabarakallah, ahsan al-khaliqin, subhanahu wa ta'ala. How blessed you are, my Lord, for creating everything around me. And I see how science functions. And I see how magnificent it is. Touch it, feel it, it's electric. And there's nothing more electric in this matter than the human being. When a human being is around us, the glowing eyes, just the life that comes out of the eyes looking at you, it's the gateway to the soul of the person. It's amazing. Allah says, look at it, it's alive, and it's wireless, and it's waterproof. It's amazing. We don't think that way, do we? So Allah says, even when you look at an insect, the other day I saw a little fly, you know, and then somebody smacked it. I said, what happened to its soul? Imagine I take that soul and I put it back in the fly. You think you and I could do it? Try it. No scientist has been able to do it. It is such a sophisticated creature, a fly, that the Harrier jet, the British Army, you know, the Air Force uses the Harrier jet. It's a jet that doesn't need a takeoff runway. It actually lifts and takes off. You know how they figure that out? A jet comes up and then it takes off. I said, wow, what an ingenious creation. They studied a fly and they learned how to build a plane from a fly. Now Allah says, tell me, هَذَا خَلْقُ اللَّهِ فَأَرُونِي مَاذَا خَلَقَ الَّذِينَ مِن دُونِي. I created this. What did you create? God said, look how merciful I am. I put signs in all of them. كُلَّ يَوْمٍ هُوَ فِي شَأْنٍ فَبِأَيِّ عَلَىٰ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ. Every day there's a sign from me. Which of my bounties will you belie me for? 31 times Allah repeats that in Surah Al-Rahman. 31. فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ, which of my bounties? Why is Quran repetitious? Quran wants me to wake up and say, while I blessed you with so much, submit willingly. When you come to salah, do it with pleasure. When you give charity, do it with pleasure and love. No strings attached. When you love your child, love them with pleasure. When you love a community, when you and I come to this masjid, these centers, Islamic Halls of Wisdom, we go to the centers, do it with love. Say, enter, Rabbi adkhilni mudkhala sidqin, wa akhrijni mukhraja sidqin, wa ja'alni min ladunka sultanan nasira. My Lord, let me enter a goodly entrance, and let me leave a goodly departure. You know, the way Nuh alayhi salam stated when he entered the ark, that, Ya Allah, I have come in your grace, that I'm going to be among believers. And we're going to listen to something. Hopefully it will energize us to become better, more subservient to you. And we're going to glorify you together. And we're going to worship you together. Iyaka na'bud. Not iyaka a'bud. Iyaka na'bud. We worship you. We, not I. In Surah Al-Fatiha. Because it's collective. وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. When you and I start looking at all these facets, Allahu Akbar, there's this movement from nafs ammara to lawama to mutma'inna. It starts to move in such ways. God says that's a highway. It's a super highway for your soul. And when your soul reaches that station, it conquers the world, and you can also move thrones. The way Bilqis' throne was brought by Asib bin Barkhiyah, you can do it too, if only you paid attention to God's system. But Allah says, my system is dependent on values. تِلْكَ آيَاتُ الْكِتَابِ الْحَكِيمِ هُدًى وَرَحْمَةً لِلْمُحْسِنِينَ. It's a guidance with wisdom for good doers. So there's a combination that while I study science, I study values, I tie it in with good behavior. The way Imam Ali alayhi salam gives his advice to his son, that my son, this is the reality of the world. Follow this principle and you will never go astray. On these blessed nights, I end with this, that let us infuse with each other positive behavior. I say many a times, I talk to people, we all go through this, by the way. As you know, we have this, what we call biorhythmic cycles. There are days when we are euphoric and very happy, and then the days we're very low. And if you and I have a bad habit, that when it's low, we scream and we argue and we curse, and we have that attitude, you know, some of us. We've developed it as a habit. It's a bad habit. Don't say it's genetic, you know, it's in my genes. No. No. It's trained. And when we and I are low, the minute something's wrong, we're angry with everybody. Especially in the family. We come home and we have rage. The wife is terrified that, oh my God, I hope my husband woke up on the right side of the bed tonight. I mean this morning, because all hell will let loose, or vice versa, where the husband's worried that the wife is going to nag and complain all day. It's a sickness when you and I have to live in a society with these kinds of turbulences, when all it takes is a little dhikr of Allah, a little recognition of His mercy, and to say, every day I'm going to wake up, I'm going to swallow my pride, I'm going to swallow my anger, وَكَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظِ وَالْعَافِينَ عَنِ النَّاسِ, and I'm going to forgive mankind. And I'm going to wake up, and that's my program for the day. And look at your children with a smile. Hug them. You know how many children are not hugged by their fathers especially? Mothers generally have no problem hugging their sons. But fathers, they don't hug their sons sometimes. It's a problem. Sons don't feel the love. That love is what opens up the gateway. There is that connection. I see parents who bring their children. This boy comes with his father. There's a love relationship. Father comes to me and says, my son loves you more than I do. And I said, mashallah, it's lovely, it's beautiful. But there's something beautiful for a young child wanting to listen to these lectures. Why? Some of these are complicated issues, some of them are simple. But there's a love relationship. Allah says, I create that magnetic relationship so it grows tomorrow in my name. And the barakah comes. And you may be together in the next world. Look at here as a father who's a sheikh. His son is right next to him, carbon copy like his father, right? You see that's a beautiful relationship where you're trying to raise a child within that spectrum of expressing yourself. Mothers who bring their children. Here's a mother sitting with two kids. MashaAllah, that's what love is about. Exactly. You know, you bring them, sit with them, Hold them, talk to them, say, son, I want you to pay attention to this. I want to pay attention to this. I want to learn this. Positive immersion in the rahmah of Allah is what leads to all solutions in the world, where we avoid problems, anxiety, anger, death, rage. This world is ugly when you and I are encircled with people who are angry and constantly nagging and looking at the glasses half empty. It's bothersome, it's a dhulam upon us. Let's get out of it in this month of Ramadan and say, Ya Allah, let me be one step closer towards the solution, because if I don't, I am a problem. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahumma inna narghabu ilayka fi dawlatin karima tu'izzu biha al-Islam wa tudhillu biha al-nifaqa wa ahla wa taj'aluna fiha min ad-du'ati ila ta'atik wal qadati ila sabilik.
Alright, so 2 more nights. Just remember, Friday night's going to be our last night here. We're going to have a big bonfire, a lot of fun, and a lot of education as well. Keep in mind we have the zakat and fitr boxes right by the door. Make sure to put in your donation. That's all, you guys. Have a good night. Thanks again for coming out. We'll see you tomorrow. Thank you.
Don't